A wonderful morning to everyone who has joined today. From ManageEngine family, we would like to extend our warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solutions. Endpoint management and security is one of the main focus areas of ManageEngine. From this webinar series, which is happening from 12th August to 9th September, we are providing all our attendees with a participant certificate for each sessions which you're going to attend. And if you attended the entire series, you'll be offered with a UEM certification for the participation. To know more details about the certification, you may put a word to our chat panel. They'll be helping you with the details. Let me introduce myself. My name is Danya, and I'm a product specialist with ManageEngine. I take care of endpoint management products, including Desktop Central. And I'm a seasoned technical support engineer, assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of challenges. In today's webinar, we will be focusing on endpoint management solution, which has different portfolios under management and security. During today's session, we will be discussing Desktop Central Suite, which has management and security capabilities. So many things have changed during the course of last 5 to 6 months. We find ourselves struggling to cope with this coronavirus pandemic, which is wreaking havoc across the globe. As an organization, we have done our bit by completely adopting remote work. But as an individual, we need to contribute to stop the spread as well. So isolate yourself if you have any symptoms, and also please do follow the personal hygiene. As I said earlier, our organization has completely adopted remote work culture, as many other organizations around the world. But this can prove to be quite challenging for an IP administrator, who now have to consider various factors before he initiate any task like an application deployment or a patch deployment within his enterprise. Considering the current work from home scenario, mostly there will be 3 types of users to be managed by an IT administrator. I have listed out that. One is a regular VPN user who will be usually connected to a corporate network via VPN, even before the lockdown situation. The next one here, we have users who are now connecting over VPN because of the work from home scenario. So for these users, we need to ensure that the security policies are perfectly aligned, and we're not sure about the bandwidth in their end, so which is also a challenging part. Next, we have internet user who will reach Desktop Central over a internet usually. So that's a known case. Now, let's take a scenario where we have John, who is an IT admin, and his team has to manage similar work from home situation. So in his case, we can categorize those users into 2. So since work from home is enforced, he needs to manage this VPN users and direct users, and he needs to achieve the task that is assigned to him. So in this upcoming slides, we can see what are all the tasks that is assigned to him and how he's going to manage to achieve those tasks. Once again, welcome to Desktop Central training, focusing on how to tune your Desktop Central to adapt work from home scenarios with respect to software deployment. Let's look at the training schedule. We're on week 2, which is software deployment. This is one of the modules of Endpoint Management and Security Suite. We had Patch Management last week, and we are currently running on week 2. In case if you have missed our last training, you can always view them on the link that is shown at the bottom of the screen. And if you're interested in our upcoming training, please use the same link to register yourself. So let's move on to software deployment today. Let me help you with the agenda for today's training. So we will be starting with an overview of Desktop Central. Followed by that, let me help you with creating a report of machines where the essential work from home applications are not installed. And once we have the list, we can see how to install these applications onto the machines using the software deployment templates. And we can also see how you can deploy a commercial application using the manual package creation method. So I will also be helping you to handle the user's request by installing the software themselves. Then we will have a brief look at the architecture of Desktop Central. Followed by that, we can end up the session with the scenarios and solutions with respect to software deployment module and frequently asked questions with respect to software deployment module. During the entire training session, if you have any questions, you can feel free to put that questions to our chat panel. They'll be helping you with the answers immediately. Now let's get into the overview of Desktop Central. Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enables the users to use them effectively for business. A popular research analyst called Forrester defines UEM as follows: product that provide a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employee laptops and mobile devices from a single console. In unified endpoint management, you can manage endpoints in a traditional IT management fashion. This includes the patch management, application management, configuration and operating system deployment, and also the tools for troubleshooting. Similarly, endpoints can also be managed with modern management. All the modern operating system will be supporting these features. So few features includes the geo-tracking, geo-fencing, OS reset and recovery, profile distribution, etc. Now, can you guess the popular operating system when I say modern operating system? Hope you got that. Yes, it's Windows 10. So Windows 10 is a classic example in which we can manage both traditional and modern management. Desktop Central can manage both worlds, that is traditional and modern, from a single management console. Now, these are the features that you can leverage when you are using Desktop Central as a unified endpoint management solution. So we have the patch management, which will take care of the operating system and the third-party application patching. We have application management, asset management, configuration, and remote control, and the power management activities. So if you're following the training schedule, we'll be talking about these things in our upcoming schedules. And you can manage the mobile devices, the iOS, Android, Windows, and Chromebooks can be managed using Desktop Central. Then we have the modern management, which is for Windows and Mac machines. That's for Windows 10 and Mac machines. You can perform things like the geo-tracking, complete and corporate wipe in these platforms. You can also put them on kiosk mode. You can distribute store apps and also manage the profile distributions. Then we have the OS deployment, which is a hardware-independent deployment, where you will be able to create a single master image and deploy it to multiple machines, which is of different make and model. Now, the things which you see are the features that are offered with Desktop Central Suite as a unified endpoint management solution. So with Desktop Central, you will be able to manage desktops, laptops, mobile devices and tablets, servers, point of sale devices, and browsers. All this from a single management console. Desktop Central is recognized for Best Unified Management Tool of 2019 as reviewed by our customer in Gartner Peer Insight Customer's Choice Award. We are recognized for Client Management Tool Division in Magic Quadrant for second consecutive year. We are recognized for both traditional and modern management. Now we'll have a look at the components that is essential for Desktop Central Unified Endpoint Management Suite. So I have listed out the essential and the optional ones. So Desktop Central Server is a central component that you will install. It provides the interface to the management console. The agent is an essential component that you need to be installed on the machines that you want to manage. Then we have another important component called Notification Server, which plays a major role in performing on-demand actions. We will be talking in detail about its use case when we get into the scenarios explanation with respect to software deployment. Looking at the optional components, we have Distribution Server, which serves as a repository for patches, software, script that you're going to deploy to your machines in a remote site. We can create unique replication policies for each location as per the bandwidth availability of that location. Then we have Secure Gateway Server. This is useful if you're going to manage machines that are not a part of local area network, or if you're going to manage the machines that is connecting over internet. It will be an essential add-on during this work from home scenarios to manage the roaming machines. And it's an additional component. So for more details on this secure gateway, you can put a word to our chat team. We also have a failover server. In case if you want to have high availability, you can make use of this. It's also a separately licensed add-on component. And you can also use a language pack to list your web console in your preferred regional language. So the components are in place. Moving on to the operating systems, we support 3 operating systems for now. It's Windows, Mac, and Linux. And this is a list of supported operating systems. Primarily, the application server runs on Windows operating system, but you will be able to manage Windows, Mac, and Linux flavors of operating system by installing Desktop Central agents to them. The functionalities might vary with different operating system. You can always reach our support team if you need any further details on this. You can reach them on Desktop Central-support at ManageEngine.com. So as you see, this is a client-server model, which means you have to install an agent. And how to do that? So to facilitate the agent installation, we have 3 methods. The first one is the group policy startup script using the Active Directory. So you can simply download the component from the web console, and we have the startup script in web. You can use that to create a GPO and push it to the machines in your environment. On the next startup, the agent will be installed. We do have the automatic agent installation directly from the web console. So you can add multiple domains, which will be fetching the OU tree view of that domain. You can choose the machines and you can push install the agent. Then, focusing on the workgroup setup, we have the manual and the script-based deployment. You can simply download the agent, and once it is installed on successful installation, the agent will be reporting back to the server. So we'll be talking on greater detail in this agent installation in our upcoming training schedules. So please do subscribe to that. Now, with respect to software deployment and with respect to the current work from home scenarios, what will be the challenges faced by an enterprise when it comes to the application deployment? So I have listed out few things which is encountered by the enterprise recently. The very first thing is every organization should make sure that all the business related applications are available for an end user. And also need to ensure that the end users are not installing any prohibited application, which can mess up their business application. So I'll be helping you with how to handle these scenarios in your enterprise. Now, before we get into the scenarios, let's get familiarized with the architecture of software deployment. Using Desktop Central, you will be able to push applications to your local area network and your wide area network. Most important thing to deploy a software is to have a package created in first place. To store that package, Desktop Central offers two different types of repositories, which is a network share and a HTTP or a HTTPS repository. If the storage method chosen is network share, then the client machines will reach the share and execute the installable files from there. You need to ensure that the share should be accessible from all the client computers. The other one is the HTTP repository, which is more appropriate for deploying software to wide area network. The package which you create by uploading an installable file from your local computer and the package which you create using software deployment template of Desktop Central will be downloaded to this particular HTTP repository. These packages from the HTTP repository is downloaded to the client computers in the LAN, and when it comes to the wide area network, that is a remote office with distribution server, the distribution server will be downloading the package and it will be distributing it to its client. Now, why do we have two different repositories? Let me explain you with a comparison for that. So network share is actually more suited for local area network, where there is no limit for the package size which you deploy. Whereas HTTP repository, you can deploy the software to local as well as wide area network. Up to 7 gig packages can be uploaded to HTTP repository. If you want to deploy a package which is more than 7 GB to a remote site, then you can reach our support. We'll be helping you with an alternate workaround to handle that. And network share requires setup and maintenance because it's easily vulnerable to threats if not maintained properly. Whereas HTTP doesn't require such maintenance. Now let's get into the UI and we'll see how these repositories can be configured. So this will be the Desktop Central's management console. And we have the repositories configured under software deployment, software repository. So we have the network share where we will be offering a default path which you can use it as a share, Or if your enterprise already have a share where you secure your packages, you can go ahead, add your package, and you can also secure your path using the credential. So when you go with the deployment, the agent will be using this credential to access the share and install the EXEs or MSI files. Then for HTTP repository, this would be the default path, whereas we offer you to provide a new location as well. So this is how you will be configuring the repository. It's a major prerequisite for a software deployment task. We'll move back to the presentation. Now let's get into the task which is assigned. So we'll have a look at John's current setup. So as we were talking earlier, all his users were working from home, where few users are connected on VPN, few of them still communicating over internet directly. Since he have used secure gateway already aligned, the machines are communicating via secure gateway. So this will ensure the communication is happening between the internet user and the desktop central is secure. So with this environment, he need to achieve his task. Moving on to the task, his first task is to create a report to know machines without all the recommended applications. So the applications here are Microsoft Teams and Office 365. Now let's see how he's going to find the machines that doesn't have these applications. So let me go back to Web Console. To achieve this, we have custom group. So go to admin, custom group. Under create custom group, we have three categories: static, static unique, and dynamic. And we offer to create groups with computers and users. And in our latest version, we have multi-domain support as well. So you can choose all the domains which is added to Desktop Central. You can pick machines from all those domains and you can create your groups. Now, what is the difference in all three groups? Static is nothing but, as the name says, you can have all these machines in one and you can have the same machines in another group as well. So, but the group should be manually updated when there is a new entry. And static unique is nothing but if a machine is added to one group, then this machine will not be added to another group. So each static unique group will be having unique entries. The reason why we have static unique in this manner is the use case of static unique falls under the user administration, where you will be creating users to log in Desktop Central. So in this, you have the use case of static Unix. So this will make sure none of the Desktop Central users are managing similar endpoints. Moving back to our custom group, finally we have dynamic. So John will be achieving his task using dynamic group. As the name says, you can create this group using the criteria, and whenever there is a change, it will be dynamically updating. Now, as per our requirement, so we need to find the machines where Microsoft Teams and Office 365 is not installed. So I can go with the criteria software name not equal to Microsoft Teams or Office 365. I have already created a group for Teams and Office 365. So from here, I have the group. Also, I have an export icon using which I can pull this as a report. Now we have a list. His first task is achieved. We'll go back to the next. And speaking about the software deployment, templates is a very important part of software deployment. We now have 8,000 plus predefined templates for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So we'll see how the package is getting created from the template and going to deploy it on our next task. So his next task is to deploy Microsoft Teams using templates to a specific group of application. We already have a specific group, you remember. So we'll get back to console and we can go to software deployment, templates. So templates is something which will make your task easier. For example, templates are nothing but we'll be having a predefined details for an application. So in here, I have the application detail, version, what type of application it is, which platform it belongs to, from where you can download this application, and the most important thing is arguments to do the installation and uninstallation silently, which will ensure that the end user will not be troubled with the installation which you're gonna push from the desktop central application. So now our task is to have a Teams package created from templates. So we have the 64-bit and the 32-bit Microsoft Teams package. So I just have to select and I have to go with create package, which will be creating the package. What if an application is not listed in the templates? Not to worry, you can always go ahead and raise it as a request. So our team will be evaluating your request and they will be adding the applications to the template. I have already created a Microsoft Teams template. So let me go to packages and let me select the Teams package. So I have it in here and let me go with the installation. So we are going to deploy to users. You can go with it. Since we are going to deploy it to network computers and choosing the computer configuration. The very first thing to update is a proper names. So I'm updating my configuration with a proper name so that the next time you'll be able to identify the task. And my package is already selected. And I'm going to perform the install operation. We also offer an uninstall using the same configuration. Next, how this deployment will be happening? What if the user doesn't have a privilege to install an application? You don't have to worry about that because we will be installing the application using the system user account. So even the logged in user doesn't have a privilege, the application will be installed silently in the backend using system account. And there were certain cases where an application requires an impersonation. For such things, you can go with the run as option. So you can select a domain or an admin credential and you can go with the deployment so that the deployment will be happening using this privilege. You don't have to share the privilege to end user. You can push the things from the backend. Now we have next the scheduler option. So for example, if you want this deployment to be happen on a later time, or you're waiting for a change to be approved for this deployment, in such cases, you can decide a start date for this installation. So from the server, I'm creating it now, but I want this to start the deployment by tomorrow. So you have defined a time for the server to start. But what about the agents? To intimate the agents about when to start, we have the deployment policy. So let's look at one of the deployment policy. Deployment policies are applicable to software and the patch deployment. So the first category will be scheduling. So you can schedule which week of the month and which day of the week you want the deployment to be happening. And you can also schedule the time at which the deployment to be happening. So let me set a time that my deployment should be happening after the working hours, which is after 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's not that you have to stick with a single schedule. Let's take on the weekends, you want the deployments to be happening on the whole day. You can add one more schedule which will be doing things. And next, we need to ensure when this deployment should be initiated. During the startup or refresh or whatever comes first. Startup is nothing but the machine startup. Refresh is agent interval time. So we have a 90 minutes of refresh interval at which the agent will be contacting this server. So during this interval, the deployment will be initiated or whichever comes first. So once you decide your timing at which the deployment should be happening, we can move to the next section, which is pre-deployment settings. So the first thing is automatically wake the computers before the deployment, which is nothing but the wake online feature. And this is applicable only for Windows. So you can wake the machines and you can go with the deployment. But to wake the machine, there are certain prerequisites which is applicable for Windows itself. So you need to enable the software level and the BIOS level settings on that machine. Only then you will be able to wake the machine and go with the deployment. Next, we have download patches and software during subsequent refresh cycle, which is nothing but, let's take morning, I'm going to try the deployment. It's around 10 a.m. I'm going to create a deployment, but my timing is at 4. So I have around 6 to 7 hours in between. So if this is enabled, then whenever the agent is hitting the 90 minutes interval, the package will be subsequently copied to that agent machine from the server. So which will ensure that there will not be a load allotted at that scheduled time. So it's a kind of load balancing prerequisite. So once you decide your pre-deployment things, we have user notification. So you can notify the end user that there is a software or a patch task which is going to be happening. You can provide a timeout for this session. Also, if you want them to allow skip the deployment, yes, you have the option. Later you can force it as well. Or if you don't want them to be notified, it should be completely silent, then you can opt that out. It's completely up to you. So finally, we have reboot. So most of the application doesn't require a reboot, so you can go with this. In case if an application requires a reboot, we have options where you can specifically schedule a timing for reboot. Or if you don't want to take chance, you want to give it to the end user, yes, you will be able to provide the intervals to the end user so that they can pick a schedule. Based on that, the reboot will be happening. And if it's like an off working hour task, then you can go with the shutdown. So once the reboot is done for the effective installation, you can shut down the machine as well. So this would be about the deployment policy, and you will be able to create multiple deployment policies, and you can associate that with the configuration that you're going to deploy. And I have already created a deployment policy for Microsoft Teams. I'm going to select that. Next, I need to choose my target. So I have a group which is already created, a dynamic group, and the machine could fall under any of the remote office. So I have selected all my remote office. I will be filtering it, and I need to select the dynamic custom group which I am created. It's done. Now there is one more case. I don't want the server operating system to be installed with Teams. So that is only to the work from home technicians. So I can exclude all my server operating system from here. Now, this group will be having machines that doesn't have Microsoft Teams installed. This also includes the servers. Now, with this deployment, I will be installing Teams only on the workstation, excluding the server operating system. Now the target part is done. Next, we have the execution settings. So for instance, if a package installation fails, and if there is a dependency for that package, that a specific process has to be stopped before the installation, then the retry on the startup will ensure that the application get installed even before the process starts. By this way, we can ensure that the probability of getting the application installed is higher. So that's the reason we have the execution settings, and you can exceed the count as per your requirement. Finally, we have a notification to notify you about the status of the deployment. So in order to have the notification received, please ensure that you're configuring the mail server settings, which is under admin mail server settings. Only then the emails will be received. Once all things are done, you can go with the deployment. So in here, we have two different options. Deploy is nothing but, if you hit on deploy, the configuration will be deployed on the agents during the subsequent 90 minutes refresh interval. If it is deploy immediately, this is where the notification server comes into play. The on-demand deployment will be happening on the agent machines. And we also have two more options where you can save this as a draft and you can deploy it on a later time. And we have a template. So template is nothing but, let's take, I'm creating a configuration and I'm choosing that as a template. Later, when I want to deploy that same configuration, I don't have to recreate it, or I don't have to search in my list for that particular template. I can simply go to configuration, templates, user-defined templates, where I'll be having the templates which I have created. So I just have to simply click create configuration, which will help me with the same configuration without any targets. So I can add my new targets and I'll be able to proceed. So this is how John will be achieving his first task, that is Teams deployment to a specific group. Moving to the next, deploying business application to a specific group, that is Office 365 application. So let's come back. So as per the drill, the very first check will be on the templates. Let me go to the templates and let me have a check for Office 365. Office 365. Okay, here I have the application, even though it's a commercial application, but not with the argument. I'll be having a document using which I can deploy the application. In here, I'll be having a step to download the tool first. Deployment tool should be downloaded, extract the contents of the exe, and I need to customize the XML file for the installation, post which I need to download the complete package and go with the installation. Now let's see how to do that. So in here, I have link from the Microsoft to download the deployment tool, which I have already done. So the tool is ready. So we'll go with the second step. So the second step here is to extract the contents of the exe. So we also provide an argument of how to do it. Please open the command prompt as administrator, paste the command, and update this file path with the file path where you have downloaded the deployment tool, and add an extract command and add a path to extract the command. So once I hit on this, I'll be able to get these things, the setup files and the XMLs, 32-bit, 64-bit for a Office 365 and also for a 2019 Office version. Now I have extracted the things. Let's move on to the third step. Third step is the customizing XML. So based on the product which I'm going to install, a 365 or Office 2060, so based on the product and what are the products which I'm going to include in that, and am I going to include a product key in that? So all these things can be customized in the third step. The customization will be done in this XML. So once we have completed our customization, next we need to download the package. So we have the command for that. Let me paste it, and we should be providing the setup exe path with the download command and the XML path, which is nothing but this particular path. Now, once I hit on download, I'll be provided with an Office folder, which has the cap files and the setup files for installation. Now I have my files ready. I can go ahead with the installation. So to go with installation, we need to create a package first. So let me go to software deployment. In here, we have a manual package creation method. So we offer manual package creation for Windows and Mac platform. So let me first provide a proper name for my Office 365 package. And we support installation for MSI and EXE applications. In here, we are gonna create a package for EXE. So once that is selected, you need to select the application license type, which is commercial. And we have two cases of package upload, as we discussed earlier. So one is share folder. Let's take I'm having my package in a shared folder. Then I will be using a command line along with the share. So the command line is also provided. You can just select the command line, copy it, go to your package, and you should be updating your share path from here to call the exe and the XML. And the configure will be the command to go with the installation. Now, when you provide a path that includes a share location, then it is always recommended to have it within double quotes. So which will avoid the breakage of the execution if there is a space in between the path which you have provided. And for Office 365, we have provided the details, but if there is any other commercial application for which you are going to create a manual package, please to ensure that the silent arguments that you're going to provide for installation is manually tested once. Only then you should be creating a package with Desktop Central, which will ensure the maximum success probability. Now, this is for a deployment which is within the network. What if I am going to deploy it to machines that are outside the network? Then I should be uploading the package. So to upload the package, please select these application and compress this to a zip. So don't put it under a folder. So I have already zipped it and I have it over here. So I can just simply upload this file and I can add my argument. So in this case, the similar argument can be added, but you don't have to go with the share path. You just have to call the setup and the exe file. On the agent side, the zip file will be downloaded, it will be automatically extracted, and the deployment will be initiated. So once the installation arguments are done, the package is almost ready, but we still have other things which is under the manual package. That is the uninstallation first. So if you provide the uninstallation argument, the same package can be used for uninstallation. And we also have advanced settings where we can provide the exit code, the architecture of application, and the maximum time limit for installation. So the exit code is nothing but when you deploy any application, you will be seeing a status as a success or a failure or error codes. Those details are based on the exit code that is written by the application. For most of the application, it will be like 0. If it is a success, 0 will be written. You will be shown as a success. But there are certain cases where the application is deployed successfully, but you'll be seeing an error message. For example, let's take SAP where it has a different exit code like 129. So if you provide a SAP package and go with an installation, it will be getting installed successfully, but you will be seeing an error on console, which is nothing but it returns a different success code. In such case, you can update that success code over here, which will make sure on successful installation, you will be able to see success on the web console. Architecture is the architecture of this exe, and this is nothing but if the deployment is happening for a long time, this is the maximum threshold at which the deployment will be happening. So if an application takes longer, then you should be increasing the time limit. Apart from this, we have few other useful things, that is pre and post checks. So if you're going to go with an Office deployment, And before that, you want to ensure if there is any old installation is available, or if you want to check whether the disk space is available to go with the deployment, then the pre-checks will be helping you out. So you can ensure that a minimum space is available on the system drive before you proceed with an installation. Likewise, post-installation as well, if you want to create a shortcut for certain task, or if you want to change some registry entries, you will be able to add it. Now, if I add a package with this pre-checks, then everything will be executed using a single configuration. First, it will check the pre-deployment check to check on the disk space, post which it will go with the installation. On successful installation, finally, it will be creating or deleting the shortcut of the actions which I have mentioned. Now, I have my package created already. So let me help you with the deployment part. I'm selecting it and I'm going to deploy it to my network. So everything remains same, and I have a different policy for Office 365. I'm going to select that, after which I will be selecting my group of machines where this should be installed. And I can go with the deployment. So this is how the manual package is being created by John and his team, and he'll be deploying it to the specific group of machines which requires this application. Moving back to our presentation, let's get to see his next scenario. So his next scenario is restrict non-business application installation. So to achieve this, we have a brand new add-on, which is Application Control Plus, that comes with Desktop Central. So Application Control Plus is nothing but it's an independent product, and it also comes as an add-on with Desktop Central. So this will help you in whitelisting, blacklisting, and graylisting the applications in your environment. The very first thing you will be doing is you should be creating the application groups. So based on the product name, vendor name, executable name, and the hash value based on the folder path, you will be able to categorize these applications, and you can create it as a blacklist or a whitelist group. So I have both the groups already created with my network application. Now I need to enforce these into my computers. I have to go to policy deployment, and let me associate these groups to the VPN users who are using my enterprise computers. I'm selecting my target, which is nothing but the custom group which we have seen, and I'm selecting the blacklist and whitelist application. Now, whatever application which is they are managing will be categorized, and only the whitelisted application can be used by them. What if they install a new application? When a new entry comes in, I'm going to put my audit mode as a strict, which will ensure that whenever there is a new entry comes in, it will not, the end user will not be able to use it unless as an administrator provide a permission. So these strict mode will ensure all the newly installed application will be listed under the gray listed executable. Only if you approve and move it to either whitelist or blacklist, the end user will be able to use it. So using this add-on, you will be able to achieve this task. So these are the snaps from the UI which I have explained to you. The next task is John is receiving a lot of help desk tickets to install various applications. How can we minimize this? So to minimize this, we have a feature called self-service portal, where you will be able to publish the applications. So under software deployment, click on self-service portal, and you will be able to publish it as a computer and user. So I can simply select my package, drag and drop my package to the selected application. In here as well, I have my target as custom group. So I can specify my targets and I can publish it. Now as an end user, how he can see this package. So those options I can provide either as an agent tray, desktop central shortcut, or in the start menu, which I can configure it using the self-service portal settings. So the end user view will look something like this. With a click of a button, they can install and uninstall the application. The packages will be copied to the client in the backend, so they don't have to worry about that. And you see one more option over there, request. So you will be getting this request only if you have a Service Desk Plus add-on with Desktop Central. For example, under admin, you have a Service Desk Plus settings. So this is one of the ManageEngine product, which is completely dealing with the ticketing part. So if you have this add-on and if you configure it, then if you get into the self-service portal, you will be able to see two categories: installs without approval, requires approval. So for commercial application, we recommend you to have the application dropped under requires approval. Instead of install, this will show the end user with request. If they click on request, they'll be prompted with a message box, and they'll be prompted with a proper reason which they can submit as a ticket to the Service Desk Plus technician. Once they add their entries and once they send the request via Desktop Central, it will be created as a ticket in Service Desk Plus. And once the Service Desk Plus technician approves, and once that request is received by Desktop Central will be automatically installing that application to client computer. So this will be the approval workflow when you put a package under request requiring approval. So this is how John will be achieving his third task. Now we have covered up the scenarios which is assigned to him. Let's have a look at the common error message which will be occurring with respect to software deployment. So the very first thing is system cannot find the path specified or access denied. So this will be a case if you are using the network share as a package upload option. So the most probable reason would be from the client is unable to reach that share path, or there are credentials which the client doesn't have any access of. So to handle this, please ensure all the client can reach the share path, and please update the credential under the software repository section which we have seen. So you can update the credential over here, which will ensure that the access denial will not be happening. And the best practice, you can go with HTTP repository, which will avoid these kind of error. The second error is no silent switch or invalid silent switches. So as I have mentioned, manual package requires a prior testing before you create a package with Desktop Central and deploy it. In case you don't find the right argument, the ways to get the argument is, for example, if I have an exe over there, so I can call this exe, and most of the exes will be having the help available. So for this exe, these are the possible arguments, and this will be doing this functions. So it will be listing you out. Likewise, for few applications, you can use this help command to get the details, or you can go to their forums or their websites to get the argument details, or you can use an AutoWait tool. So you can script the entire deployment using an AutoWait tool. And when you create a package, you can add that script along with the package, which will automate the deployment. That's for the second case of the deployment. Now let's quickly have a brief look on the Desktop Central's architecture. So as we were discussing, Desktop Central is a client and server model application, and it's an on-premise solution. You can have Desktop Central hosted in any one of the supported Windows operating system platform. And this is an architecture which covers the wide area network. So you can manage different remote locations from one single management console. So the machines that are connecting to Desktop Central via internet, either from a remote office or a direct user, their communication will be secured by having a secure gateway configured over here. And with respect to remote office, you can choose the machines to directly communicate, or you can choose them to communicate via distribution server if your site have multiple machines. And we also offer an integration with on-premise Active Directory. So once your Active Directory is added, you will be able to push install the agent listing the computers from your Active Directory, and you will also be able to target for deployment. So under the target, you will be able to see the OUs, groups, and sites listed using which you can target your deployment. And under the reporting section, we also provide the Active Directory reports, which will help you with the reporting part. And even if you have a closed network, we also help you to manage those closed network with Desktop Central. Desktop Central is also available in AWS Marketplace and Azure. In case you're looking to host your Desktop Central in any one of the cloud server, you can use AWS or Azure solution. And I'm really glad to announce that Desktop Central is now available in cloud. So as a cloud solution, you can use this URL, which is mentioned at the bottom of this link, to start your trial. If you want to know more details on the cloud solution, you can put a word to our chat team. We'll be helping you with it. Next, Desktop Central can scale even a small environment as well as the large. So this is achievable using the 90 minutes refresh policy of agent. So what is 90 minutes refresh policy? We'll have a quick look. So every agent communicates with Desktop Central server once in 90 minutes. Even if you have 90 machines, 900, or even 9,000, the 90 minutes will be equally divided among them. And each machine will be given a specific time to talk to the server. Now the server has the intelligence to assign a time to each client to talk. So this is to avoid the network congestion or the downloads that can actually eat up your bandwidth. So this will ensure that the load is evenly distributed within your network. Now, moving on to the major requirement, that is ports to be configured on Desktop Central. So we have two major ports, 8383 and 8020, which is a web server port, and 8027 is the notification port, which is responsible for the on-demand actions. The rest, the optional ports for remote control, file transfer, and if you are going to use a distribution server, you'll be able to see you need to configure these ports. And there are much more about the ports you can have a look at by visiting the URL which is mentioned at the bottom of the screen. So here we have almost come to the end of today's session. So far, the scenarios and the questions which we have gone through, if you have any question, please feel free to put a word to our chat team. They'll be helping you with the prompt answers on those questions. Let's look at the scenarios and solutions now. The very first scenario is there a way to base install of dependency app? I have an app that needs a database to be installed first. Yes, you will be able to do that. So let's get back to the management console. I'm going to my packages where I have an application and I have a database. So I have selecting both the package and I'm going to go with the computer configuration. So as per the requirement, I need the database to be installed first. Once the database installation is done, I need the application to be installed. So I have to align in that manner. So based on the alignment, the deployment will be happening. Now I can add my targets and I can go with the deployment. So this will ensure the first scenario is attained. Second scenario is I have a third-party application that does not support silent install. How can I install it? So we have seen ways to check on the application's silent arguments. In case you don't find an argument for an application, then this would be the last go. So we have an option under the configure, install, and install options where you will be able to check this one, allow user to interact with install uninstall window. So that when you go with the installation, the end user will be prompted with the installation window. They can provide the next and the accept stuffs and they will be able to go with the complete installation. So the third scenario is I have a set of applications including MS Office and CRM deployed for my sales team. I want all new salespeople to have these applications installed on their computers automatically. How can I do this? So for an automated deployment, let's take I'm going to have those users created as an OU in my environment. So I'm filtering and I'm selecting my OU or a group and I'm going to target. So once this target is done, all the targeted machines will be getting deployed with this packages which I have listed. And whenever a new machine is added to that OU, I want the deployment to be happening automatically. So go to configurations, go to the configuration settings and ensure this option is enabled. When a computer or user is added to an OU or a group, apply configurations during the next startup or logon or during the refresh cycle. If this is enabled, then whatever new machines is going to be added to that OU, it will be receiving the configuration which I have created. But there are chances where the applications goes outdated. So in such cases, if you don't want that applications to be installed, then you can set an expiry for this configuration. So let's take after 2 months, I don't want this configuration to be active. So even though you have a configuration settings configured in place, this configuration will be expired after this period of time, just to ensure not the outdated application is getting installed. Moving back to fourth scenario, I tried to deploy a business app to a computer, but it failed. Is there a way to troubleshoot it myself? Yes, you can do it. So for example, I'm going to my package. So I'm creating my own package, or let's take it's a template package. You can modify that. And when you go to advanced settings, you have an option called enable login for troubleshooting. Let's take if I have enabling this, then when I deploy this application to an end user PC, and if met with a failure, then I'll be shared with a log for that specific application. For example, let's take I'm creating a Skype package and I'm deploying it and I'm meeting with a failure. Now, my logs folder will be having a specific file created for Skype with a detailed log of the error happened, using which I'll be able to troubleshoot and handle this scenario. Next, when I create a package using templates, what happens if a new version of application is released? So you don't have to worry. We will be taking care of this using the auto update templates option. Under software deployment, you have auto update templates. So the package which you create with template can be enabled with this option. So once you enable this, whenever a new version is released and added to template, it will be creating that as a new package automatically. So for an administrator, all these packages will be listed in your view under the packages session. But the packages which you're going to publish via self-service portal will be getting updated on a routine basis. So to ensure the end user always has a updated version. The sixth one here is, can we perform Windows 7 to 10 upgrade using software deployment? Of course, yes, you will be able to do that. So Let's go to the templates again, where you will be able to see a template to perform that. So it's for Windows 10. I have a Windows 10 upgrade, and I have a how to document to achieve this task. When I get into the document, the steps explain how how and from where I can download an ISO, and how I can extract it, and how I'll be able to create a package manually. So once I download and extract the ISO file, I'll be getting the exe. So using that exe, I'll be able to use this command line if I have a product key. If I don't, then I can use this command line to initiate the deployment. So in case of failures, we also help you with a document that lists the failures with respect to software deployments. So the error codes, the cause of the failure, and the solution to resolve that will be available in the same document. You may have this referred to get things resolved, or you can always reach our support team. Next thing is the question answer session. So we'll quickly have a look at the frequently asked questions with respect to software deployment. What if I don't have a self-service portal link on the menu? How can I find it? So if you don't find a self-service portal under the software deployment, then it means you're running a professional edition license. So you can click on this license and check which edition you're running. So ensure that you have a UEM, Unified Endpoint Management, or an enterprise edition in which you will be able to see the self-service portal. Second question is, how do you monitor the status of deployment? Like how many workstations have installed versus how many remaining or failed? So you will be able to do that from view configurations. So you can select one of the configuration and you can go to the execution status, where you will be able to see the status of multiple machines which you're targeting. Also, the configuration details will explain you what package you have deployed, and the summary will explain you which desktop central user has deployed and when the deployment has happened and to which machine this has been happened. Next, we are using a secure gateway server in our setup. Do the external clients still need to connect to the HTTP portal for a software, or can they go directly to a network share via secure gateway server? So when it comes to a deployment for a machine which is outside your network, it is always recommended to use HTTP, because exposing your network share could be vulnerable to the network. So it's always recommended to go with the HTTP portal method. Fourth question is, if I want my software packages to be replicated to remote office, how do I achieve it? So if you're going to target a configuration, for example, I'm selecting one of my package and I'm going to target this. So if I'm targeting this package to my entire domain, then it is like if I have hundreds of remote office, all the 100 remote office will be having this package replicated. So this is not an ideal method. You can choose the respective remote office to which you want this package to be replicated, and then you can filter out and add your targets for deployment. So this way you can have a perfect replication done. Fifth question, when multiple software are deployed in a sequence, if first package fail, does it attempt to continue? How is the notification sent back? So if the first package fails, actually the configuration would be called off. And to intimate you on this, we have a notification section which will let you know the message over email. Sixth one, if you configure a schedule and the computer is not online at the time of the schedule, will it be in a queue to install when the computer comes online? It's not actually the queue. If it misses the schedule, then the deployment will be happening on the next schedule window. Seventh one, we have 11 technician license on Service Desk Plus, and we have only one technician license on Desktop Central. Is it possible to set self-service portal with only one technician license on Desktop Central? Yes. It's not mandatory that Desktop Central should also be having all 11. So we just require one common admin technician on both ends to have the integration done. Now we have come to the end of today's training. I hope you guys feel this training as useful, and please do share your feedback and rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. And our next training schedule will be for asset management, which is going to happen on August 26th. And as I have mentioned earlier, for each of our training schedule, we'll be offering a certificate for the participants who attended the training, which is applicable for software deployment, asset management as well. So you can stay tuned and please be a part of the asset management training to learn of how to manage your hardware and software assets. You can register yourself using this link, which is shown on the screen. And if you guys like the training, please do spread a word on the social media platforms using the hashtag which is mentioned on the screen. And if you want to get a personalized demo on the entire Desktop Central Unified Endpoint Management Suite or the Application Control Plus, which we were discussing to manage the applications, you can put your email IDs to our chat technicians who is available now. So they'll be helping you schedule a free demonstration on these projects. Once again, I thank you all for spending your precious time throughout the training session. Stay safe.